Good evening and welcome to the Greater Rutland County Supervisory Union. It is Wednesday, June 22nd. If you'd please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
I would like to add a discussion under maybe new business about putting in midterm grades due for each quarter on our calendar.
Okay. Any other additions, deletions, changes to the agenda? Hearing none, a motion would be in order. Motion by Mike with the change, or with the addition?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. General public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to an issue not on the agenda this evening? So we have no public with us here, and we don't see any public online. Moving on, approval of the minutes of May 25th. A motion would be in order. Motion by Mike. Discussion?
There were two little things I noted. On page 2, under superintendent's report, when Chris had shared his PCB sampling schedule, it says see below, but the schedule is never included in the minutes.
Okay,
So either take that part out or add the schedule.
okay.
And then on page 6, there's just a little typo. It was supposed to be he instead of his under food service renewal, the 6th line, where it says Lewis reminded the board that everyone is eating for free and it should be he is estimating ending the year with a surplus in the food service.
Okay. Okay. So, with those two changes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Approval of warrants. You receive your warrants through your GRCSU email. All questions should be directed to Lewis. A motion would be in order for the approval of the
I'll
warrants.
make a motion. to
Motion
approve
by
them.
Tina. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Chris will not be joining us this evening. You have the superintendent's report in your pocket, so any questions, you could email him sometime next week. And we will move to Lisa, the assistant superintendent report.
Thank you, everyone. So you have my written report, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. But otherwise, I'd like to use the majority of my time to focus on the curriculum work for the summer. Okay. So this slide deck you all saw last time, and I should probably share it on the screen too. Just so people at home can see it also. Okay, so that's the document that we're looking at. I just made a few edits. I changed the options section based on our conversation last time. So we have option A, option B, option C. And once we go over the staff who have volunteered to participate, I think we could go through and just make sure that those options are accurate and represent either way where we're going. And then at the end of the presentation, I added information on the staff members who have volunteered to be part of our team this summer. We had what I think is a very strong response, given other things going on this summer, like summer school and other programs that staff are involved in. For folks who are interested in participating in this work, we had 19 individuals that have applied. Actually, it shifted to 20 as of this morning. 2 of those individuals have some scheduling conflicts for the week, either for all or part of the time, but are interested in supporting the work. And there are additional 4 other individuals, one moved from the bottom to the top, who have expressed interest, are looking into it, are either trying to make it work, maybe they have some scheduling conflicts, but they're interested in supporting the work. And I did ask Debbie and Christine to just prepare the list of names for those individuals to go into the contract recommendations for tonight, because the work will take place before the next board meeting. So when we get to that part of the agenda, we could talk about that. I, just given the timing, put on the names of everyone at this point in time, assuming that I can always cross off a name and not give them a contract if something doesn't work out or they back out later, but at least I'll have board approval if things work out to move forward with their contracts. And then the next couple slides just give you a breakdown of who it was who applied to do the work. So we asked for their subject and role in the schools, and you can see the different content areas represented. We had the largest majority of individuals in the core content areas, and then we had, I think, again, fair representation across the other content areas. And then we asked for school representation, which school does that individual affiliate with? And again, got a okay cross-section across our schools. We know it's hard in some of our smaller schools where the staff are doing summer programs and other things, and it's, you sort of start to run out of people to do different projects in the summer.
West Rutland.
Yeah, but a good response, I thought, again, across our schools. And then we asked for the grade representation and what do those individuals teach. And some of them obviously teach multiple grades, like specialist teachers and things, so they just selected all for that category. And again, we got a pretty nice cross-section of grade levels and subject areas for those folks. So with that, my recommendation at this time would be that we proceed with a good portion of our summer work. We have multiple individuals in each of our core content areas, and so trying to pair them up as best possible to get the most content areas and grade levels that we can done with that work in the time that we have available to us, and then having a cross-section of individuals from all of those other content areas means at the very least we can get a pretty good start on almost every content area with at least one individual helping us to draft things, and then we'll work during the school year, I think, for those groups to try to refine and finish that with bigger teams of people as we go. So that would be my proposal based on where we're at, but I wanted to just open it up to additional discussion. We had talked about that kind of, I think option A and C were the 2 we were looking at. And option A, I'll just go back to that for anyone online. I like my X through option B. Very professional. It works, right? It was effectively communicating. So option A was sort of the original proposal of trying to get all of these drafts done with whoever shows up and over the summer and try to implement them right away for the 2022-2023 school year. And then option C was trying to take everybody who volunteers, get as much done as we possibly can with quality and representation from the people who do the work, and then finish up any that we need to during the school year and refine all of them with feedback from the larger group during the fall. And then start to roll it out and support teacher professional development and implementation on a kind of rolling basis during the school year next year, requiring teachers to fully implement for the following fall with all of the priority indicators. Did I capture those two options the way that the board recollects?
Yep.
Right.
Okay, so,
Discussion?
yeah, what do folks think?
How do you feel now knowing how many you've got that may? You think you can get it done for start?
I'm excited by the turnout. Honestly, it was it's great. It's more than I expected, to be honest. It's not quite as many as I think we legitimately need to get this done. Just thinking about, you know, elementary level in particular, you have 4 content areas for every single grade level. So that's just a huge amount of curriculum work to try to get through. So I think we're going to need to prioritize on literacy and math first and try and work on those at the elementary level during the summer. And we may need to wait for social studies and science until at the elementary level till during the school year, depending on some of those other folks who might be able to do some work for us outside of this week, may be able to chip away at some of that. But I don't think we have quite enough at the elementary level to really get that done across all 4 content areas for them. But I think 7-12, we're going to have a good start on core courses. Again, we may not get to the electives, but I think we'll get to the core required courses. And then we'll have, I think, a good start in some of our specials areas.
I was really happy with the turnout, especially for 5 through 12. And I want to thank all those teachers that are volunteering to put the time in. It's a daunting task.
Yeah.
I do think that we need to wait a little bit more on the elementary as well. I don't think 2 or 1 person for pre-K can really do it all. And I also think it helps to have teachers from all different schools in our supervisory union collaborating and, you know, taking what they know and enjoy it with what they're teaching and kind of bringing that all together so that we get the most robust program. So I would agree that with what you said.
Yeah, I'd like to see us really focus on middle high school, I think, just based on the numbers and based on the teachers that signed up. It does seem like it could be really lean doing elementary school. I guess doing literacy and math would be the only option it seems like you would have. And I believe it said you had an interventionist from each math and literacy, so that could be helpful. But even though I know we're using funds that are outside of the general budget, I still don't want to see us use funds in an inefficient manner.
Right.
That, so like in the fall or something like that, if we could have people come back and work, you know, that, or if we need to use those funds for something else. So, yeah, I just worry that if you have 2 teachers, you know, K through 3rd grade, what really is the outcome that you're, looking for? I'm not even sure that there is a real outcome there, so.
Yeah, we're gonna really have to prioritize and just put things in order for them and
Yeah.
talk about what comes first. I should also have mentioned too that our literacy coordinator will be joining us for this curriculum week, so we'll have her as well to support the literacy work that takes place.
Sure. But even the literacy interventionist and coordinator, they're gonna be looking across all grades, not just elementary
Right.
school, so. Eric?
Go ahead.
I hate that you know I was gonna say something. So my concern is, you know, if we, you know, this is a, you know, GRCSU curriculum, and if it's not done now, when will it be done? Like, if it gets put off, and then it just doesn't get done, then we've got, you know, we've updated the curriculum for, you know, the higher grades. So I guess my question would be, would that work fall off, you know? I mean, what would you think that the timeline, you know, my opinion is just to try and get it done, you know? And I understand the concept that there's only, you know, 2 people volunteering for these grades, but, would you think that, like in the fall, those numbers would be better?
Well, in the fall, we have other options as well. So, you know, as Lisa was saying, you could have the option of trying to pay people to work after school to do some of this work. We could also have the option of pulling small groups of people and releasing them from teaching time to try to take on pieces of this work during the school day. So it's just different kind of time. Obviously, the summer and after school options don't interrupt instructional time for children, whereas the pulling them during the school day does interrupt instructional time for students, but it allows us to ensure broader representation and accomplish those goals more easily. So again, kind of there's trade-offs to all of those pieces. I don't think you're ever going to get perfect representation when it's voluntary outside of contract time, right? You're not going to get 100% of a group of all of our schools or all of our, you know, teams when it's voluntary outside of contract time.
Is there any way we could use in-services?
Yes, some of that could be in service time
Because
as well.
I really hate to take them out of the classroom.
Yeah, I think the in-service, the tricky part of in-service is we have 3 days in the fall, 2 of which are the August days, 1 of which is usually school-based. So you have basically 1 day in the fall, and then you have 1 day in October, and then we don't have any more in-service time until December, I think, is our next day. So when you talk about moving the timing of that, the more we shift it to in-service, the more it moves toward the end of the next school year, by the time we actually have enough time during those blocks to make meaningful progress with those teams. Or some combination of those, and say we get a couple people from each area to work during the day and then bring drafts back at in-service to try and move things more efficiently. You're still pulling people, but less, and you're getting that iterative process back and forth. So there's lots of creative combos that we could try and come up with if we don't get where we want to get to this summer in specific areas.
I guess I would like to really see us focus on literacy and math for the lower grades. Particularly, we just looked at the annual snapshot at Quarry Valley, and I can't imagine anyone's across the SU is, you know, significantly different than any of ours or ours at Quarry Valley. That literacy and math are the basis for, you know, science, history, whatever. So if we have those that framework in place, I would think that it would be easier moving forward with the others to help. So I guess that would be my preference, personally, doing elementary school with the limited numbers to really focus and have those in place because, well, that's everything. Whether you're doing math or doing science, we need that framework in place. And just about all of us are either not meeting or approaching or barely meeting or whatever the lovely little arrows that the state chose to use during the snapshot. But I don't think there's any way to fail if those are our focus, personally. But so are you looking for us to choose A or C, or are you?
I felt at the end of our last board meeting like there were people who had very strong opinions one way and very strong opinions another, in terms of the timeline and the urgency of the timeline for this work, and it would definitely help me to drive things if I had clarity of what those expectations are from the board.
Okay.
And I know that, yeah, I'm one of them that is the A, get it done, don't want to wait. But I also understand if you have the lack of personnel, especially in elementary, as long as the priority is put in the right place. I understand, but yeah. I don't want to be sitting here next year saying, well, we didn't get much done in elementary. You know, The sooner the better. Is there a D, the sooner the better?
Well, I think C is the sooner the better, right? It's,
I go for A too, but for a slightly different reason, in that as you're doing this, if there's tweaking that has to happen, you're sort of in that process doing it, rather than us waiting for another year and then doing it and saying, oh, now we gotta tweak it then. So let's start it now, do what we can do, tweak it if we need to, and then we can continue the process beyond that.
yeah, just to address that too, Mike, I think all of these things we wanna improve as we go. I mean, even we sent
Right.
out the draft proficiencies to all the teachers, so they all had them before they left for summer break, you know, the spring work that we did. So all of our teachers have those in hand, and we got a few emails afterwards from people who were like, I thought we were doing this, or I wanna clarify that, or, you know, I think that this is the wrong standard here, and we were able to just take those right off the plate, take care of them, and move it. It didn't, you know, whatever, it's a live document, it's a Google Doc, you know, so we can make real-time changes for folks, you know, and then just make sure that they know that they've been updated, and moving forward, and we hope to do that with all of this. We shouldn't have to wait any amount of time to make an edit or a revision if it's in the best interest of children, and we know that we need to make it now. Like, there's no reason these days, with the way that documents can be shared electronically, that we can't just do those things.
I think it's just the initial creation of the document, that everyone has the same document in hand to begin the work. I mean, we obviously know that tweaking is going to take place with two people and, you know, two teachers from first grade, two teachers from second grade. Someone's gonna come in and not be happy with something, but if everyone has that document to start with, it makes it easier than, for some people to, as you said, you know, share or clarify or like that, so. Kristen?
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask about, so if we go with option A, the expectation for the sort of, at least part of the August in-service would be to sort of, whatever work's been done, wherever we can get it over the summer, that would be presented to all of the teachers in that in-service, and what would be, it would either be orientation / working on it, or whatever, feedback.
Yeah, I think the way that I'm hearing feedback from the board would be, option A would be, we're going to really focus and push this summer with every resource available to create every one of these documents, even if it means that we don't have someone who teaches in the content making a draft 100% of the time, just to have something to start with. We'd be rolling that out to teachers in the fall and expecting them to use it starting on the first day of school. Option C would be, we create documents where we have expertise this summer. We're gonna introduce them to staff in August in service anyway, and share everything that we've done with the appropriate people, regardless of planning, because of course we wanna do that, let's go. And then the expectation would be that we would finish those documents with teams of people in the fall, hopefully, for the rest of the areas, and then work on rollout and professional development with the teachers during in-service time next year, so that they can start playing around and experimenting with them, revising them, giving feedback together as groups, looking at them, and then have a full expectation of full implementation for the following fall.
You know, my guess is choosing option A will turn into something like option C anyway, as I am literally doing this at the state college level.
It is a giant amount
Yeah.
of work.
Yeah.
It really is a giant amount of work.
So we have gone through prior, we have
Yeah, we're not starting
proficiencies
from
in
scratch.
place,
Yes.
we've picked indicators, we've picked framework, so it's not like we're starting from scratch. I mean, we certainly have been doing this at, you know, middle high school level for some time. You know, when we started going to proficiency, some schools were doing it earlier than others, so that work is there. I think option A is what we have to go with, and I think we have to have it in place to hand out in August, and then, you know, teachers should take it and then come back for the October in-service to discuss, you know, or have, you know, we could pick, you know, 2 times or something that we would pay after school or something for groups to come, and discuss and make tweaks or whatever, but otherwise, I do kind of feel like we're just kicking the can down the road, so, and I was surprised how many people actually signed up. It would be nice to have more elementary people, but I think honestly, even if you just focus on elementary and at literacy and math, you're going to be so far ahead of the game at this point to be able to hand out, because no matter what you're teaching in elementary school, you should be able to use that framework.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with option A, you know, in terms of at least trying to get the work completed. You know, I understand if there were things that were unforeseen that happened, but I also think that, you know, as it says, that every grade level and content, you know, like I said earlier, I don't feel that, you know, if some of that work is, you know, not done, you know, when will it get done? So, I mean, we're doing this work now, or you're doing this work now, at least try and focus on it, you know, in elementary school all the way up in every content area. That's my thought.
consensus to go with option A.
Make a motion if that's what you're looking for.
I'm looking to see if we have any other.
I feel like option A makes sense for 5 through 12. I just think option C, makes more sense for elementary, and just like doing option A for maybe math and literacy, like you're saying, just do the best you can. And that's kind of what I heard Lisa say, that's what she's planning to do. So A as much as you can, and see if you don't get there. I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of logistically and what's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I guess my concern is kind of like that for elementary also. If you don't have music or somebody like that, I mean, and it's hard to tell, I'm not sure, like what the core areas, and I get it, a second grade teacher, you teach everything, but you still have a strong set, whether you're a first grade teacher or second grade teacher, of what that is. So I just think looking at our scores, looking at everything, that focusing on literacy and math certainly makes sense. And then doing like your electives, I mean, those shouldn't be overwhelming once you've created that framework. I don't know. I want to see, I guess I want to see a good product for literacy and math, because those are the foundations, and we do see everything we look at, whether we're looking at STAR, we're looking at SBACs, we're looking at annual snapshots, we're seeing some holes in those areas, and you see where that falls over into science when you look at things or like that. So I just think if we start to ready those up, you're going to see strength. Amanda?
I just had a question for Lisa Madison. Lisa, do you feel like we need more elementary teachers present to really be successful, or we can just compose it and then teach the elementary teachers how to teach the kids, basically? Because I guess for me, I feel like there's guidelines and expectations that we have to meet anyway. So I think even without the teachers, we should be able to complete that and then just share with them what the changes are. Am I misunderstanding?
No, I think you're right on, Amanda. It's, there's like the two pieces of it, right? There's drafting these documents based on resources and expertise, and then there's making sure that teachers understand them and have the skill sets to implement them. And the drafting of the documents, other people can draft some of these documents. They won't necessarily bring that expertise to bear in making decisions about which standards make the most sense to group together, and how to, sort those out when there are multiple options, or really just, if you understand, like Common Core math is a great example at the elementary level, there might be a priority indicator, but there could be 4 or 5 different supporting indicators that build up to that priority indicator. But there's also this other priority indicator, and 2 of those supporting indicators could build to that one too. And, you know, right, because your basic skills all build to fractions and things like that. So you have to, there is some nuance there of making groupings. Now, that said, if you draft it and you bring it back to your entire group and every third grade teacher says, nope, this is wrong, these should be here instead of there, we can just change it. So it just, you know, yeah, there's, all of those things are possible. I think, again, elementary, if we limit it to just math and literacy, you know, you're really talking about 12 or 13 different groups of standards that are gonna need to be processed. That's still
A lot.
a very high number for 4 or 5 people to try to work their way through. We can, again, supplement with coaches and the literacy coordinator and some other folks and try to get the rest of those framed out as best we can. I do think just realistically, we're gonna have to make some decisions when we get into that process, and we'll get to a point where we're just gonna be able to say, we can do this, but we can't do this. That is a very large group of content areas and standards, even within just literacy and math. So, but that doesn't mean that we can't have something meaningful. We just may, you know, in literacy, there's 5 areas of proficiencies, right? Like, you know, language and writing and informational text and literary text, right? And vocabulary. You start to get into these sections, and same thing with math. You've got, you know, multiple areas. We might have to look at them and say, okay, what usually is taught at the end of the year in math? And then, okay, we're gonna shelve those indicators for now for these couple grade levels, and we're gonna focus on what's taught at the beginning of the year mostly, and then we're gonna try and finish those in the fall with getting groups of people together. So I do think we're gonna have to make some of those decisions as we go, just based on the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would say then with that, I would be in favor of Plan A, I guess, which is, you know, compose as much as we possibly can and present it with or without the elementary people present. And if we have to change something after they've tried it, then look at changing. But I agree with Eric that I think we need to just get as much done as possible and, you know, focus on elementary and high school. So that's my opinion.
And Lisa, you think there might be maybe a few more folks who might step up before this planned week?
Yeah, there's a handful of folks on here.
Vacancies, too.
Yeah, I know, right?
But some of the people that signed up are like, I could be here 2 days, I mean, I know some of the
The whole
people.
process may create a buzz, so you may get some of
Well,
that.
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah,
I was
just-
like, hey, we're
Right,
doing this,
exactly.
we need to be a part of this, like, I know that's, again.
And there
happening.
definitely there are a couple people who have scheduling conflicts,
Yeah.
but who have been involved in the spring curriculum work,
Yeah.
are very involved and talking to us all the time about this work, are very passionate about curriculum, who
Yeah.
I think even if they can't attend this specific week, will carve out some time
Yeah.
to help do some
Yeah.
of this work this summer too. And I just have to figure out how to support them
Right.
if I'm not around, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, my question is, focusing on math and literacy, for the summer, would you think the rest of those content areas will work on in the fall?
Yeah, we would need to. Yeah, we would have to start working on them once we finish. This is for elementary,
Yes.
the math and
Yeah.
literacy
And they
focus.
may
Yeah.
find that they can get more done this summer.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
well, I
Or
understand that.
otherwise, we're gonna have to get groups together during the school year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, with math and literacy being, you know, primarily what's the focus in elementary.
It is.
I guess I'd be fine with that, you know, just my concern is just falls off the radar,
Yep.
you know, and then gets shuffled into the back and.
Yeah, that's why I want us to be very clear when we step away from the table today, what it is that our expectation or the direction that we're giving Lisa. So that if we're saying that we support working from pre-K to 4th grade, and this is, I'm just giving an example, not on math and literacy and working on those 12 or 13 and really solidifying those. And then in the fall, looking at, you know, science, history, music, whatever that is. And then during the summer on the 5 through 12, kind of having more of an outreach because you have a bigger group but still focusing, I think, on literacy and math, because those are the core components. I just think we need to be very clear, because as she said, at the last meeting, some of us, we were all, and I know, I was over here, and people were in different places. So that when they get into those rooms, or when she sits with those teachers, she can say, the board's expectation is this. We shouldn't just leave it on Lisa once she's in the room to say, okay, well, I guess it's okay, we're gonna push those two away. When I go to the meeting, I'll explain. We should be clear on the direction that we're giving her.
I do think, just based on what I think we have in terms of staff available to do this work, I think at the elementary level, focusing on that literacy and math is appropriate. I think at the high school level, focusing on the cores, I think we have enough people in each of the 4 core areas that we can make some headway in each of those cores and use the expertise of the people who have signed up to advance that. So I do think that again, and then if we have time, we'll get to the electives. Some of our electives too, like there's only one person who teaches it at one school.
Right.
So if that person isn't involved in this work this summer, having somebody else do their course electives for the course that they're the only person who teaches is just weird. So we've been working with them already on kind of setting this expectation that like if you're the only person who teaches this in any of our high schools, we're gonna need you to help
Yeah, we
create
may have
these
to pull
documents.
foreign language for a couple
Right.
days or something like that. Yeah,
Things like that,
Yeah.
so.
Amanda?
Do we have a day or time planned after we do all of this work and put all of this together to get all of the teachers on the same page, right? Because we have a few teachers that are helping in this process, but then next year is going to start, and at what point are all of the teachers going to be on the same page after all this work is done? Is there a date planned for a meeting with like all of, say, K through 2 and then 3 through 6 and, all of the classes kind of divided, or how are they all gonna get on the same page?
Yeah, well, the next time we see them will be in service in August. So we will roll out all the work in August and try to help them get a good understanding of it. And then we're gonna have to support and embed that through the year. I mean, obviously, handing someone a document the day before school starts and saying, teach this now, is not quality professional development or support. Like, we're gonna give them the kind of 101, here's what you need to know, understand, this is what we're working on, we want you to start working on this right now, and then we're gonna have to support that as we go.
Okay, thank you.
What are the other content areas for like pre-K through 6?
They have English, science, math, social studies, and then they have all of the specials. Yeah, and I think I agree. I believe that the folks that we have who are specialists, like art teachers and music teachers, that we should allow them to work in their specials area. Many of those documents I actually believe will be faster to create because their standards are smaller in number and more similar across the grade span, so they're very developmentally keyed up, and they teach them anyway. So if you're teaching pre-K to 6 art, you already know all of those standards. It wouldn't be as hard for you to do that. So I think we'll actually move very quickly, even if we just have 1 or 2 people in each of those areas, and that using that expertise to do that work will benefit everyone.
And that's certainly easier in the fall to pull out 2 or 3 teachers, and so you don't, have art maybe this week or music or something like that, and allow them to work, as opposed to pulling out a classroom teacher. I would be more open to that than having classroom teachers pulled out. Jeff, you've said nothing?
Yeah, I'm just taking it all in because I haven't been wholly, but option A with some tweaking, and then in the fall, start the lower grades with the sciences and the rest of the stuff. That's what I'm hearing in a nutshell.
So do you want us to make a motion? Do you want us to give you the consensus that I guess we're looking elementary school focus on literacy and math and content areas middle through high school, and then looking, we would support pull-out then during the fall for,
I wanna go with A first.
right,
With the
right,
understanding.
with the
Because if we
understanding.
already give a built-out,
No, no,
If
no.
you can't get it, then we'll do it in the fall.
No,
or
no,
we'll
no.
put teachers- I'm just, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying, so I don't want that,
Concrete.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
option A,
correct.
and looking at the concrete literacy in math in pre-K through fifth, and then looking middle school at content plus electives build out, and then we would support pulling out, elective instructors during the fall for elementary school. Because we don't have those, if you look in here, you don't really have
Right.
them.
Right.
Yep, not a-
So,
not a-
I think that allows the focus for them to work more on, math
They're all
and,
wonderful people, and I
Yeah.
know they're gonna get it all done.
Sure.
and We're gonna be off to the
Yeah.
start.
Gonna do our best. Nope,
Yeah.
that's great. I think,
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot more consensus tonight than there was last time, so that's
Okay.
perfect.
all right.
Thank
And
you.
I'd be in support of, you know, if fall comes and we need to make another date, like another day off for the kids to get the teachers on board. I'm concerned. I just want to make sure everybody's on board after we make these changes.
Well, we've already adopted the calendar, so I don't
Yeah.
think we would be, doing that. And the
Right.
days that we're actually talking about, we've set 3 days out, in August before we start school. So we have like new teacher orientation, teachers in school, and then it would be something like this. So, I don't want to walk away from the table with the, thought process that we would be taking away a student day for this work, because I don't think that's something that, there would be consensus for.
Yeah.
And I can come back also, I mean, once we do this week, I can come back to you in August or September and give you a rollout of the
Sure.
year also, and like,
Yep.
here's what this is gonna look like for professional development, and when and how we think we can try and get these groups together to do whatever is left over.
Right,
that
and it
we
may
need to
give us a better insight of, we built the calendar out a particular way this year with the elimination of Wednesdays, and maybe next year, I don't want to bring Wednesdays back or Tuesdays back, but I mean, it may make us look at the calendar differently, so,
Yep. Sounds good.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to personnel. So for all of this work, a lot of it is contract recommendations. So we'll start with professional staff, and these are both rehires, I believe, because they're grant positions,
Yes.
and we're in the middle of the grant. So it's Deza Jenkins and Wade Davis.
I make a motion to approve the professional staff.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Support staff, we have Christina Collmore for here, the business office.
Make a motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then I think most of the ones that we look at for extracurricular are all for summer work,
Right.
it looks like.
Yeah.
So are there,
I think there's just one,
is there someone on that's not?
the
Oh,
first
that's-
one on the
Oh.
list, Patty Ryan, I think that's a Proctor
So-
High School specific
Okay.
curriculum project,
All right.
which
It's
is
still
also
extra
grant, yeah,
curriculum.
grant
Yeah.
funded.
All right, are there any questions about any of the teachers, I guess, that have signed up to do the work? It came out earlier.
Right.
Yeah, my question is this just an updated revision from the our last meeting, we approved a bunch of these, curriculum work stipend positions, so.
That's,
That was
there was a
different.
couple meetings ago, it was for the spring, this is the list for the summer.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We also have some resignations. We have Chelsea Zeller from here in the business office, Liam Murphy, a pair at the Proctor Elementary, Elizabeth Yotto, a Rutland Town para who is applying for a Rutland Town position, and Marilyn Garrow, who is a Rutland Town para who is applying for a Rutland Town para position. She's special ed para.
Right.
So, a motion would be in order to accept the resignations.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Tina, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Question before we move on.
Sure.
For contract recommendations and stuff, are there, is there like a SU hiring committee or board members on an SU hiring committee? Or is that just all done administratively?
So the first two were, grant positions, so we haven't set. I don't think board members have sat for those.
No.
And they actually have worked for us, and like I said, they're just technically rehires because of the way the grant is, so I don't know that there was any kind of formal,
Okay. I just meant
Interview.
like in general, you know, for.
as support staff for here, Lewis does his own with, a couple other people for the business office. These are all essentially just, volunteer. For, special ed, usually Kimberly has sent it out to, I know Tina and I have gotten them. You don't get them for special ed, for
I
paras
don't
and
get
things like
anything for,
that?
like, that's what I was gonna get at, paras and,
Oh.
and special educators.
I
and
haven't
stuff.
gotten any for anyone other than admin.
Yeah.
Okay,
Usually It's admin. though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Usually
Weighing
like
on.
So-
department leads
Right.
are
Okay.
hired with large committees and then
yeah.
they staff their departments with hiring
Yeah,
teams.
so like with, I know like, so Bell was setting for, because he was incoming for special ed, Kimberly was setting. I'm not sure if like different building administrators are setting, I know, because we have so many, openings across all buildings, so it's kind of just who has availability, because we're hiring for special ed paras. We're not saying what building they're going in, that's a SU position. And like, I know Greg put out with, because we approved at the last meeting, I know he has applications for that. Usually he is, interviewing his people and they'll bring back recommendations to us, so.
Okay, I was just curious.
There's
Yeah.
also sometimes a difference in the hiring process between an internal candidate and an external candidate.
Sure.
And that if we have an internal candidate and if there's only one candidate for the position, you know, then they're just gonna meet with the principal and the principal's gonna determine if they're a good fit or not. And if there's multiple candidates, then often they'll get to like a hiring committee or a larger group of people. But if it's someone who's worked for us before, we know their performance, they've applied through an internal posting, they're the only applicant, people feel confident about their work, we can just move that process
Yeah, so
forward.
we had an interview team when we interviewed for Christine's position, and then when we interviewed for the two positions underneath there.
Right.
There were principals and board members and, other admin on those committees, but,
That's
yeah.
another reason why I asked. because-
Yeah. Otherwise, admin or whoever's, director of that department is overseeing, so.
It is interesting though, because as board members, we do sit on, for instance, Rutland Town. I or Tim will sit on for hiring paraeducators, custodians, and teachers. But no, I don't think there's any board members that are sitting on the special educator, paraeducators, the special educator teachers, like all the ones that are through the GRCSU. I don't think there's any boards member sitting on that, so I don't know what the difference is. I do agree with you, Eric, that it is interesting, and I don't know.
Well, because you're not hiring for a particular district, you're hiring for the SU. So even if you're setting as a Rutland Town representative, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have an opening in Rutland Town. It's just, so, and I think also because we have so many openings, that they are interviewing people pretty much weekly here. So if you sat at the SU level, you might be in interviews like
All the time.
3 times a week. I mean, if you're looking at the handouts you're getting here and at the district level, I mean, this is the vacancies. I mean, it's like a little book.
And there's
I know,
multiples
and-
within that, so
yeah.
like there's one with 12.
Yeah, so, and I think that's the difference. At the SU level, you're not hiring, for your district. We're hiring, we may interview, or they may interview 3 special educators and hire them all, and even if you said, none of them may be going to Rutland Town. They may be going to Quarry Valley, Middletown, you know, wherever,
I
so.
would assume they are the people that know the qualities, the strengths, weaknesses that they need.
Yeah, well, special education, as we know, is a little more
Exactly, yeah.
specific on what the expectations are in the licensing, and with all of the changes now at the state with special education, even, you know, when we sat for the administrative level, there were some questions and responses that, you know, were a little above our pay grade.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was nice to hear, and it was nice when they could speak to them, but let's be honest, unless you're in that every day, you don't really know that. And I think the same is like, you know, Lewis just hired someone, and Greg's gonna be hiring these other 2 positions that we approved. You know, everybody's time has value, and so do we need Greg to explain to us? I mean, he's already done that in essence, what he's looking for. I would hope that when he's interviewing, you know, with himself, with, you know, whoever else in his department, they're the ones that know what they're looking for and if these people are gonna, and I do know that he did say when I was here signing contracts that he had a few candidates, and he's very excited about that, so. And I guess my feeling is we're paying these, you know, administrators in each department to oversee those departments. So I would hope they're only hiring the best for their departments because they're responsible for them, so.
Product matters.
Yeah.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right, right.
I don't remember if we voted on that or not.
We did.
Awesome.
So we do have a leave request in here. I was just trying to
There
find
are
that.
2 actually, Jen Heath and Heather Wilson,
Yeah,
and both letters
Okay,
are in the packets.
right. So, a motion would be in order to approve the 2 leave requests.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? I feel like we're doing rounds.
I know.
Motion passes unanimously. So, yeah, so you see all the open positions that we do have. And we really, it seems like we have a lot more open positions this year. Doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't think we're an anomaly. You look at other schools and, they have significant, instructors that are leaving also, so, the key is maybe we can grab some of them, right?
Nice, yes.
Or keep them from being grabbed.
Yeah. So, all right, finance, Lewis.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have any specific items for tonight. I definitely can take any questions if there are any. In the business office, we're just working on getting things prepared for closing the year, making final payments to vendors, getting the summer pays and lump sums done for teachers, getting all the payroll done for the year, so that once the year comes to a close, we can get those reports ready for both the state and for boards, so that everybody knows how the year went. I'm also working on getting stuff ready for budget season for the next round. As you talked about here and local boards, we're looking at starting that process early, with some boards starting that process in July. So I've already started the preparation for that, and there'll be more information to come at your next meeting for that.
Okay, questions?
Well, I apologize, Louis, number 1. I've been busy. I forgot about the bill I've got to send you. I'll get on it tomorrow morning.
Okay?
SRO.
All right, thank you, Lewis.
Welcome.
Old business, recovery plan.
I attached an update, a written update for recovery plan work that you should have in your packets. And really for us at this point in time, we, actually even since I submitted this report, there's been an update. So as of yesterday, we were pending approval of our recovery plan, and then by yesterday afternoon, we had been approved. So
Awesome.
recovery plan has been approved by the AOE. And really this summer, the co-chairs of each of our 3 task forces are going to take the goals and strategies that were outlined in our recovery plan, and they're gonna work on action plans for the year and how that's gonna map out over the course of the school year, what's gonna happen when, and getting that in writing so that when their teams return in the fall, they can finalize those plans and start moving ahead on them. And you hear about a lot of the activities underneath the auspices of the recovery plan in my reports and Krista's reports, because it's all around, you know, academic success and student well-being and keeping kids in school. So in addition to this report, I know you see this work across reports, because it is the work that we're doing under this plan and others. So that's really the big, I mean, our biggest push this summer, beyond the curriculum work, is in the area of MTSS and EST. And the recovery team has been overseeing a second task force, which is the MTSS team, the SUS MTSS team. They have completely revamped our MTSS system, which is multi-tiered systems of support. The way we define that, we kind of talk about it like a pyramid with layers. So all of your students at the bottom get tier 1, which is universal, available to all kids. About 15% of your kids approximately are going to need some additional supports. That's intervention, whether it's academic or behavioral, to accomplish proficiency. And then a very small percent of your students are going to need what we call intensive supports. So that's more one-on-one, more behavior plans, more really specialized interventions like one-on-one Orton Gillingham or very targeted strategies. So all kids should get all the layers underneath as they go up. So if you're receiving intensive services, you should also be getting targeted services at tier 2 and universal services at level 1 to help support those students. So that's the MTSS pyramid model, basically. So we didn't have a centralized system for GRCSU. We had individual schools, had individual approaches in varying degrees of access. So this team has been working all year long as part of our recovery work to develop a plan for SU level MTSS work. One of the big first steps that we're taking is around our educational support team process, the EST process, which helps struggling students at that tier 2. They've completely revamped the procedure for schools in terms of identifying students, some students based on data immediately, so they go right to receiving services, and then the supporting teachers in their classroom-based interventions with other students to see if they can get them rolling right as part of the classroom instruction before they go up for referrals. So that's getting rolled out. There's also our progress monitoring and screening process. We're adding a FastBridge software program because a lot of our schools were using different tools, different tests, different assessments to see if students need additional work in certain areas. So we have our big screeners that tell us which students are not proficient, and then we have this next level diagnostic and screener which tells us, okay, if a student is struggling in literacy, let's do a few smaller subtests and figure out exactly where, so that we can really tailor instruction for those students both in the classroom and with our interventionists. And then FastBridge also allows us to progress monitor so that students are being assessed regularly and their results are getting reported so we can monitor if those interventions are successful or not.
Awesome.
And the EST team is going to take ownership of monitoring that data and supporting teachers and improving that. So a very big system shift for us. This is also positioning us for Act 173 and the changes that are coming down in terms of supporting students. MTSS, having a highly functioning MTSS system is really a requirement for Act 173. And so we're working on that. So we have training with our principals next week, Monday and Tuesday, and then they're going to try and get a team, some people to get trained before the school year starts, just so every team has a couple people who are up and running and ready to go, and then we'll finish training everybody else on the EST team when we return in the fall. And we're planning teacher training for the software programs and the assessments that they've got to do at the universal level with the kids. But that's reflected in this report, but it is really that next large bucket of work. Once we know what we're teaching, right, then we have to identify which students are ready to access that
And what are we going to do if they're not? So answering those questions on the big picture systems level. So lots of exciting work going on, but that's just a highlight.
Questions? How many SEL coaches do we have in the SU? Just one?
I believe, well, we have one SEL coach that is a SU level coach position, and then I believe that the board approved they're in there, they're called something else, SEL behavioral interventionist, that's the sort of next level position that Christine Cam had brought before you a few months ago, and I'm sorry I don't have all the details on
Okay.
that, but I could follow up and get them. And then we do have some behavioral specialists in a few of our schools.
But those are district-based, right?
No,
They're all SU?
Those are school-based.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yep, yeah. So that's it for SU.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you know, so when we were talking about interventionists, we were talking about literacy and math, how many schools do not have interventionists in the SU in their buildings?
I believe that as of next year, there will only be one high school that does not have access to at least an interventionist. Not all of them have access to both literacy and math
Okay.
yet. So we have Middletown and Wells have people who do both literacy and math. Pulteney Elementary has one of each. Pulteney High School currently has none.
Okay. So is it possible for the July meeting that you could bring us that information, and you could also tell us what or which of those positions are general fund and which of them are SU funded or ESSER funded? I think that would be helpful for budgeting. I mean,
For sure, yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I just think the more we hear about interventionists, and I've heard about the work being done in some of the schools, and great work being done by them, that I think maybe it's a conversation we want to start having about reallocating maybe positions, services. I will say, I'm always much more for front-facing for students. I never like when you're a step away from the student. That always makes me nervous when we start hiring people like that, particularly this time of year when we're looking at, you know, all the reports, all the testing and those kinds of things. So I just think as everyone, like next month, I know Corey Valley, we're gonna start really drilling down and looking at budgets. I don't know when other districts are doing that, but those are priorities. I know within ours, I think that's good information to have as you go forward looking at that, so.
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely, we've been talking a lot, as you can see from the recovery plan report,
Right.
about the intervention model and access across school buildings, and how do we really create an intervention model that provides all students with access to highly qualified folks if they need them.
Right.
For that targeted support, and make sure all kids have that piece. And there's definitely, the other piece that we've been talking a lot about is the interventionist job description and how they're spending their time in intervention cycles. Part of the MTSS work is around really supporting our interventionists and their model, and having clear criteria for how kids get into intervention and clear criteria for how kids get out of intervention.
Sure.
So that we can try and maximize our interventionists to the greatest extent possible, and what should an intervention cycle look like for kids. So it's a great conversation, because we're talking about it a lot here too, and how
Yeah.
do we start to move our schools in a direction that is going to maximize available resources, and what's our model going to be for ensuring quality resources.
I mean, I've seen some great stuff this year, and, you know, I was excited in Proctor to see, particularly at the high school, that after years of me kind of stamping my foot and yelling about summer reading, that we're really like pushing that out, and they've made these little boxes up, and if you read certain books, you get points, and, you know, it's been an ongoing conversation here and at local districts for a while about summer reading, so it's disappointing we kind of had to get so far down in the hole to start coming out again with that, but it's nice to see. But I have heard from parents, about interventionists in different schools and how grateful and thankful they are. And kids that have gone like 2, 3, 4 levels, particularly in reading. And I will say just this past, month, we talk about like what the holes are for kids, and sometimes it's really hard to see it. And I'll say for myself, sometimes it is because I don't have a child at the elementary school level, and I think maybe that's where the bigger kind of lapse was. But we had pool day, and it was amazing to me the number of kids that couldn't swim. And then we stopped and thought about, we were closed for a season. The following season, we were open, but people were still pretty hesitant about coming back, as opposed to, you know, like prior to COVID, when we were doing swimming tests, I mean, you had everybody, like in our pools, swimming to second so you could use the boats and things. And just that little microcosm was a really big wake-up call for me about seeing where COVID really did hit, and if you see it there, you know it's, you know, in other places. So, yeah, I think it's really important personally to look at interventionists. The earlier we can catch kids, the easier it is to catch kids.
Yep.
I mean, we know it's harder when kids are in middle school to help them. Not that they don't want to be helped, it's just, I don't know, that age, hormones, whatever it is. So, yeah, and we want all our kids to be successful, so, great. All right, anything else for new business? Any other any questions for Lisa?
You meant old business, right?
There's
Yeah,
reasons.
old business, I'm sorry, yeah, old business, yeah.
She was gonna skip right over you.
Oh, no, I saw that.
Skip right over that. All right, new business, is there any new business to come before the board?
So I had mentioned
Oh, yes.
about the midterm grades. Just wanted to have a discussion about it. I was attending a CIP meeting at Rutland Town, and we were talking a little bit about parent access and to grades, and how now that jump rope's in everybody's school, that it sometimes is frustrating for parents when they do check and teachers haven't updated grades. So it's kind of has this friction of a discussion with your child. You know, why is your grade so poor? And, well, I turned in 3 assignments and the teacher didn't grade it yet. And so it can be challenging on the family side. And then my oldest is at Rutland High, and halfway through each quarter, I will get a link straight to her jump rope so I can see where her grades are now, and everything's updated. And I also get that at the end of the quarter. And I find that very helpful as a parent, because I'm able to see, I know when I check the grades, they're going to be updated. And it makes it easier to have conversations about progress and goals setting and that kind of thing. And I notice on our calendar that we don't have any midterm dates or midterm grades due for each quarter. And I was thinking that might be something helpful to look at, maybe with Chris and Lisa and principals, just sitting down and just kind of discussing, you know, is it fair to hold teachers, you know, 8 times during the year to have grades definitely in, so that parents can look? And, you know, is there a way to either let parents know that now is the time to look, you know, not trying to give extra work to teachers, but, you know, maybe, you know, sending a little email out, just storming parents from the jump rope portal or whatever, you know, grades are ready.
I don't think there is a parent out there that has not run into that. Where's that work? I've handed it in twice, and it just isn't getting added in. And I think as it is that every week they're supposed to catch up.
Yeah, there is a framework, and
Yes.
and
I
I
don't
did,
think
yeah.
that is really
think it depends probably on the
Right.
teacher. I mean, that was certainly my experience with the,
So I mean, if they're
Student.
already doing that, then it should be pretty easy to do those 8
Yeah.
yeah.
time periods, and I
Right.
think that's great.
And particularly at the high school and middle school level, you have check-ins anyway, because you're looking for, athletic,
Right,
Eligibility.
yeah, so that is, there is some level, even if it's informal, that they're actually, and that's generally in the calendar or in the,
It's twice a month
yeah, in the book,
in
so.
in the student handbook.
Yeah.
and it's pretty rough if you're a parent and all of a sudden, okay, let's go to the ballgame. I can't.
Yeah,
Why? You know, it's a
Yeah.
little late at that period, but.
yeah, so that would be great if you, you know, when you meet with, admin, and maybe you could come back in, you know, August and let us know what that would look like. Eric?
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think, you know, I'm glad you brought up jump rope, and it being relatively new in Middletown.
Yeah, brand new.
Or Wells Springs, I should say. And I think the first step down in our area would be to, at least create more awareness, because I would like to know, like, how many parents are actually accessing this, and, I'll be honest, I'm not. I keep forgetting about it, and, so I think that'd be good, you know, and I think some of that work could be done on a board level too, but, with, some, I don't know, direction and insight from Chris and Lisa, that'd be
I know I
great.
spoke with, Alina was at the CIP meeting, who does a lot of the jump rope work behind the scenes, and she said that there are actually ways to just send out links pretty easily.
Yep.
So I think it would be great if we just explore some possibilities to increase access, and that framework that you sent for jump rope, I definitely don't think it's definitely being followed all the time either. So maybe just keeping, that in mind too, as a goal for next year, to make sure that teachers are, and administrators are making sure that their teachers are accountable to what we are expecting through that framework.
No, that's great. We can definitely bring that back to the admin team. We've already started updating. We call it the jump rope expectations document. Last year was the first time that we ever had one at the SU level. Prior to that, expectations were different in every building, and some of our buildings weren't even using jump rope. So last year, when we got everybody on jump rope, we created for the very first time a jump rope expectations document and shared it with principals for feedback and a group of teachers for feedback, and then we shared it with the whole staff in August. As expectations, but now with the curriculum work, some of the expectations will be different because of how the curriculum work will feed jump rope. And so we're already in the process of updating that document to then bring it to the principals for feedback. So I can certainly add these notes and try and have a conversation about how to include that with folks and how to support and hold teachers accountable.
Sure, and I think it's the difference of how long it's been in a building too. In some of our buildings, it's been for a very long time, so it's a little bit like old hat. And
Yep.
some buildings where it's new, I know when we first started, I mean, I would have the expectation in those buildings that principals and coaches from here, there would be some kind of parent meeting at the onset of the school year to talk about jump rope, to do a PowerPoint kind of, go through like that. That's something we certainly did at all of our schools when we first started. So that would be my suggestion for schools that are just starting, that way.
Most of them sent out printed reports at the end of each quarter this year, and by request, anytime a parent asks for one, with instructions on how to log in and information about
Yeah.
it, to try and make it really clear, like, this is what it looks like, and here's your child's progress, here's how you get onto the system, and see us if you want some more information, to try and ease that process for people the very first time in the new schools.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even when we first started doing it in our schools, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's a little hand-holding to continue to hand out paper, reports though, I think. I mean,
Yeah,
that
no,
was.
just for the schools that it was their first time ever.
Yeah, I don't
doing
think that happened in schools. We did it for the first
Yeah,
time.
well, that's
No, it was
maybe,
on
maybe
there.
everyone was feeling generous and nice.
Well, yeah, so
Pandemic
we might go
times.
back to equity there and conversations, but, yeah, I would think that's more like a parent
If you
meeting.
have a school board newspaper, a school newspaper that
Yeah.
goes out, put that in the bottom.
Yeah,
or
it
just
goes
a
in the
reminder.
newsletter
Or
all
the
the time.
website.
Yeah.
You can
And-
do a step-by-step how to
Yeah.
get on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
My kids
Yeah.
brought
For
home
all
a
of
letter
them.
from their classroom teacher that said, here's how you log on to their jump rope accounts and here's, you know, how you get in. So it
Even
came
flashing
home in their
banner.
Friday folder, went in the newsletter, and we got the email. And it was like,
Done.
you've
It's up
got
to you
everything you
now.
need.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
And you'd see too, periodically, a lot of schools would do reminders to folks like, you know, here's how you get onto jump rope if you can't remember, like,
Yeah.
don't forget to log on. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
both, again, education and support, right?
Yeah, I guess they just kind of threw us into the deep end. I think there was no hand holding into the shallow.
No, I remember it was months long and parents were saying, well, I don't know how to use it.
Yeah,
Oh, my
and they were just like, you need to be swimming. All right, so that'd be great if you could bring that back, you know, maybe July, but definitely by August, so let us know.
Yep.
All right, before we get into policies, Eric, I see there's a little activity report. Did you want to discuss that? Anything to share, or it's self-explanatory?
It should be self-explanatory. I'm sure everyone's already seen this, or
Mhm.
should have, except.
Thank you, it was a wonderful idea. Hope
Yeah.
it does help.
Oh, thank you. Except for, Well Springs, because I did it after our meeting, but I basically verbally did this beforehand, so, but, yeah, unless anyone has any questions, it's just a summarized report of what we did.
It was
Okay.
awesome, it
That's
really
really
was.
nice.
All right, so we'll move on to the policies we have for second read. We have B1, board member education, D3, substitute teachers, D7, unlawful harassment of employees, and E2, school crisis prevention response, and F4, education records. So those are all second reads. A motion would be in order.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mike. Any discussion?
I have a discussion.
Okay.
So, from last meeting here, we decided, please correct me if I'm wrong, we decided that we are, even though it's not the way our current A1 looked or looks, we are sending everything out to the member boards, and then when it comes to second read here, we're done with it,
Right.
right? So, that being said, then our second read should be ready to go and be put up, because they've already been warned 10 days, and they should be ready to post, right?
What we're looking at tonight.
The second reads,
Right,
correct?
right.
So, at our Rutland Town meeting, when we did these,
Okay.
I had made a couple little, very minute suggestions, but nothing was addressed.
Okay.
So they still look the same as they did to the Rutland Town meeting. So,
What
for
policy are we
instance-
talking about?
so for, C, D7,
Okay,
and it's not a big deal, I mean, maybe it really doesn't matter. But I just thought that under 3, A, B, and C should be indented.
I see, yeah,
Just because they shouldn't be in line with 1, 2, 3, and 4.
okay.
So that was
Formatting.
pretty much it. Yeah, it's just formatting, but it should be ready to be posted right now.
Okay,
And then the only other one was F4. Just that the footnotes are still on there, and we had talked about how when we're ready to post that those would be
You gotta
removed.
take them off, yeah.
Yeah, so basically just taking off the second page, but I'm just trying to cross Ts and dot Is, so.
I'm wondering, and Eric, what do you think about this? I just, you know, cause, well, I'm on the policy committee, but I'm not at all everybody's meetings and hearing all the feedback, and Eric probably isn't every meeting, either hearing all the feedback, so when he gets the feedback, if you email him directly, then he'll have it, but sometimes someone will make a note in a meeting, and maybe it doesn't always get there, and I'm wondering if there's a way to make these editable in the meeting, so that, like, someone can make the edits right there and then email it to him.
But I can't do
Right.
that because I'm not on the policy committee, and sometimes it has to go back to the policy committee, and
Maybe we
sometimes
should just
for
make
me.
sure we send, an email to Eric or whoever is the head of the policy committee at that time, so that,
yeah, so we say that, or I say that on my meeting, that if you have, a comment, correction, or concern about the policies, when we look at first reads, when I read through those, that they should contact Eric, and I don't know if any of people from Corey Valley have, but I know rather than us discussing what those edits are, because we're not making the edits at Corey Valley. If they're significant, there've been a couple times we've discussed them and saying like,
Yeah.
do we really collectively as a board think that that's an edit that, or a concern that should be sent to him? But what we've been doing and saying at Corey Valley is, I just read the first reads, say that if you have a correction, an edit, or a concern with the first reads, please contact Eric, he's the chair of the policy committee, or feel free to join the meeting and share what your concerns are. And that's how we've been addressing it. Because I don't know, like, at your meeting is someone, like, if you're making that, that's just going in your minutes, but I don't know that Eric's
That's what I'm
receiving
saying. is
Yeah,
I'm
so
your
wondering-
minutes.
I thought
Lost in
Chris
translation.
was passing that on.
And
Well-
maybe sometimes if it's a significant,
Yeah.
like, we need to change this paragraph or take it out, but if
Yeah.
it's these little formatting
Right.
things, I'm wondering if those are just not getting.
Yeah, and Chris isn't at every meeting either, so.
Right, right.
And like, lately I've just been kind of following up with Christine because
Yeah.
he'll send her, his notes and stuff, and, sometimes she'll, you know, watch the video or something, I don't know, but
Yeah.
that was something that, you know, I had a conversation with her with, you know, a couple weeks ago. You know, has anything come back? And, no, that was.
Oh, 'cause she sees all the minutes, I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
And
So
then,
it
you know,
just-
like,
yeah.
like this formatting stuff, like, I go cross-eyed looking at this
Yeah, we
stuff.
were going through it yesterday,
I mean,
because we
Yeah.
had our meeting yesterday,
Yeah.
and there's like,
I
taking
mean,
out the
Substantially
footnotes and.
change the content.
Right, we can
Okay,
accept them with the
so-
formatting.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
formatting stuff, and then like that D7, you know, last time we talked about that, we moved that, that examples portion
Mhm.
down, and, you know, and then I guess that, procedure part just got missed. So, it's a work in progress. So like these formatting thing, you know, just shoot me an email. Like, as long as it doesn't change the policy, this formatting stuff can just be fixed,
Okay.
essentially.
So is it not even worth mentioning at the meeting? Just send it to you? I mean,
That's what we're doing,
I
because,
think that's a
We
good
have
idea.
so many policies that we're behind on.
so only
Yeah.
if there's a substantial change, we should mention that at the meeting and,
yeah, I think if you're
and then that will,
changing the.
and then Chris
if
will
you-
tell Christine then, and then you'll get that.
Yeah, so, yeah, anything that you would wanna change definitely for like your meeting records and stuff, and then anyone can still email me if they have
Yeah.
like a clarification or, you know, or a
I would send
suggestion.
everything to Eric, only
Because-
because we all meet at different times during the month, you don't know when they're meeting.
Yeah, I
So
would
if you
just.
wait for our meeting and then tell Chris, they may have just had met the night
Yeah,
before
like
or
we just
something.
met
and-
last night.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's unreasonable for Eric to assume that if he's not getting anything on it, that
Exactly,
it's
everything's
fine.
Right.
So-
fine.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So
Right.
he wouldn't, yeah.
That's
I mean,
why, I'm just trying to
you would
figure out
assume
the
Yeah, I think you
system
could
to
decide
make it.
at your board if,
Yeah.
if one person wants to email Eric about it, I mean,
Yeah,
for
figure
first
out-
reads, we're not having in-depth discussions
Right.
at the board level about those. People are reading them, and if there's some kind of concern, cause honestly, most people for first reads do not come to the board and have already read all the first reads.
But they're
I-
supposed to, right?
Right,
because
and
it's
I usually don't say anything
So I do.
because I'm on the policy committee, so
Yeah.
I've already been in the discussion, so I'm, don't
And
usually
two
say
of our
anything in
members
policy.
are,
Right,
so, yeah.
exactly, so I usually don't, cause we had 100-page whatever
Yeah.
report to go through yesterday, you know, or Monday
On
night, you know,
Monday,
so
yeah.
it's like, well, what,
I don't know.
so, but if you, for your board, if it works better for you to have like,
One
okay,
person.
take everything down, email it all, you know, to Eric, or if you can, I mean, I can edit PDFs just with my
Yeah.
Adobe on my computer, so whether I'm on the policy committee or not, you can just,
Yeah,
So I usually
comments.
mark mine up. So I could just leave those with Christine after the meeting. Would that be helpful?
Absolutely.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we
You
do
can
it.
probably even, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you can probably even email Eric a picture. I know sometimes if we kind of write on things and change them and take a photo and just attach the photo, it also helps Eric to find where in the policy it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank
Anything
you,
to
Amanda.
help him.
yeah, we've just decided to do it that way at Core Valley, cause it does put the onus on everyone to have read them and submit any, you know, concerns that they have, so.
Then any suggestion for like policy change in language, all that would that would all go back to the policy committee.
Yeah.
Right.
So by the
So
time they get
those
to-
we should have at the meeting though, because that's
Yeah.
good to have that discussion.
Yeah,
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 like
for
we're gonna be
second
starting
reads,
from
I think.
creating policy kind of from scratch. I mean, a lot of these are models that we've, or old ones that we've had, but if we start creating, that is gonna be like, yeah, definitely have those discussions at your board so that the
Yeah.
wording is what you think it should be.
well, and there's a handful of them we need to get through and just adopt because they've become new and mandated and we have no option, so.
Right.
Yeah, and, well, really quickly, you know, I did have a Corey Valley board member reach out to me about a policy, and, I think it was Sarah, and she was concerned about language conflicting with another policy, which I thought was perfect, because,
Yeah.
and I was able to take the time and look at that, and then that came to the committee,
Yeah,
last month, so just stuff like that, and then, yeah, there are numerous required policies, some of which,
Yeah,
so,
We're working.
yeah.
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and we've talked about different options. I mean,
Yeah.
you could do like at one time, we used to get, the notebook and you'd adopt every policy. There's 150 policies, you adopt every single policy and they've all been adopted.
Done that, yep.
And then you started going through them, a little bit at a time, yeah, because some of them, I'm sure you found, there's really no changes.
On that, since Rutland Town's not meeting in July, IRA's not meeting all summer,
Mhm.
so there's not gonna be any policies throughout the summer, like on any agendas, so that way, when all boards are meeting again in the fall, everyone's on the same page as far as adoption
Yeah,
and then our process goes, so. And then what'll happen, well, the policy committee's not meeting in July, and surprisingly, everyone's busy.
Yeah, there's no
So-
date that anyone.
So we're meeting in
everyone's
August, hopefully, and
Yeah.
then, we're gonna have a bunch of policies, but, I don't expect you're gonna see like 30 or 40 policies in your September meetings, so just a heads up,
It's
it'll
gonna be a lot.
yeah,
yeah.
It's okay.
yeah.
Thank
No,
you
I
for
think
your
we're
effort.
doing a nice clip at a time, so, it is what it is, it's never ending.
Yeah, I wanna get to, the new policies that we should be developing, that we've been talking about for months.
Yeah,
You know, right now, we're still kinda working through our model policies, and those are gonna take a lot of time, because we're developing these policies from the ground up. Like, the school grounds and flag policy, and then there's a couple other ones in there, so.
but there are other schools that you can reach out to that have
Yeah.
already adopted them, so it's always good, I think, to work from those policies.
Yeah,
Um,
we've started a little bit of that too, so it's
And I'm
just like
sure-
some have like 5 pages,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
then some have like 2 paragraphs, like, okay, so
Yeah, but you can.
what are we gonna take, what are we not,
Yeah, and Christine can probably always grab those and share those with you too, so.
Some of
Because
the
some
short-
people were ahead of the curve.
Some of the short ones we think are gonna be just, and we end up talking 10, 15, 20 minutes on them because
Yeah.
when you really break them down, it's like, so
Yeah.
a little tweaking.
Yeah, some of them are difficult. When you're looking pre-K through 12, they have different implications,
It does,
so.
it really does, yep.
All right,
The only thing I'll add is, F-18, that's on here. I found out that there is a new version coming, this summer.
Oh, good, I'd hold off on it
And
then.
that is, so that, when we get that, that'll come back to committee, so this version right here, from what I understand, from what I was told, is gonna look completely different.
Okay.
okay. All right, so the motion's on the floor by Mike to approve the second reads with, the two formatting changes. All those in favor?
Right?
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, our future meeting date is July 27th. Our retreat date is, September for the SU.
Right.
And just a reminder that that meeting will only be in person, so people can start making, arrangements, babysitters, whatever that is.
What's,
For
can
July
somebody remind me
27th.
the September?
For September,
September
September.
28th, I think.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
Is it the 28th or 27th?
September, I think it's the
28th
28th.
is the Wednesday.
Yeah, I think it's the 28th.
Oh, it is the 28th. I
Yeah.
have it in here right. I just can't push the right.
Okay.
button.
No, just a reminder that that's gonna be, that when we do goals and things like that, that's gonna be, in person only. And then just, for curiosity, are other boards looking at budgets over the summer or not?
I don't think ours is. We have our goal setting in August.
Okay,
My
But
understanding is that we are.
you are?
But I haven't talked to the superintendent yet about that.
Louis just unmuted.
My plan is to start presenting, in the earliest meeting that's available, so if you're not meeting in July, then it'll be in August.
Good.
Okay,
We're meeting in July.
okay. Yeah, cause Quarry Valley, we're doing a line by line, budget analysis.
Ting.
Yeah. So, and our budget's only like, 52 pages, so it'll
A piece of cake.
And we have a lot of, only has a lot of new members.
Yeah, that's one reason we decided to do it, because I think there's just, well, there's a number of reasons, yeah.
Yep.
We're looking at different things. All right, anything else to come before the board? I think at our July meeting, our discussion item might be, I know we don't have to meet in person, but, because of the legislature, but maybe discuss meeting, every quarter in person, for the SU or something like that, or we're gonna meet in September in person if we discuss budgets, like, November or something like that. We usually try to approve the budget by the
Oh,
November
yeah.
that we, meet again.
Louis, he's got something to say.
Oh, okay, Louis, are you antsy?
You going to Key West?
No, I don't necessarily have anything to say, but I mean, there will be a budget timeline that is given out at the July meetings if you're meeting in July.
Yeah,
Everything is moved up, and I mean, with the possibility of, possibly approving the SU budget in October, but if that doesn't work out, then November is definitely the drop dead time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then even possibly moving up the district approvals a month earlier so that we can start the preparation for town meeting earlier.
That's the goal.
okay. All right, so maybe that's just something we talked about. Tonight it wasn't bad, but some meetings, it's rough when we, particularly discussing budgets,
Yep, definitely.
so,
And SU meeting in August is
regular meeting.
third, fourth Wednesday, right,
Of August?
of August, right?
Yeah.
We're having that meeting and it's
Is it
regular.
like,
schedule.
I'm gonna guess and say the 24th?
24th.
Yeah,
Oh
okay,
my God, I got it right.
okay.
And I think what we're gonna do, is that during the 3 days of, training for boards, or is that the following week?
I think it's the following week. I think their first day of school is August 31st.
Okay, so that's the following week, okay. All right,
Might be new teacher orientation.
It's
or
new teacher
something.
orientation for us, but that's.
okay. All right, hopefully by next meeting, Greg will have some, people for us to approve also, so. All right, a motion would be in.
I will make the motion to adjourn.
All right, any discussion?
Time to put the train again.
7:34.
Can you imagine?
Kristen, it's
All
nice
right.
to see you in person.
Oh, thanks, you too.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
for joining us.
Bye.